time. It is time. It is that time for the last of the SJPORR experiment beer reviews. And got some foreigner playing in the background. That's excellent. Because today, the last brew is from BB, the big bearded brewer, only lightly chilled as he requested, and the last beer to be reviewed as requested. This one is a huge, enormous, basically 12% beer, and it's 11.93% ABV, so it's change. It's 12%. Basically all of the hops were Goldings. He went a very bold direction by making a American barley wine, but as we all know, or if you don't know, American barley wines are typically very highly hopped. And so, when you're making such a big beer, I do have concerns. Can you balance out that beer with low hops when it's such a high ABV beer? He also did some really unique things with it. He did what he called a condensed beer. He basically did a big batch and condensed it down to about 3 gallons, maybe a little bit more. 2 of the gallons he put on secondary. He split out 2 and had it on oak wood that had been gone through a smoker and placed on his grill, so it had some charred flavor. And 1 other gallon was put on pecan wood. Meanwhile, he had 3 ounces of Maker's Mark bourbon with a split vanilla bean, so it was sitting on the vanilla bean during this process. Afterward, he joined the 2 batches, the one on the smoked, if you will, oak, and the one on the pecan wood together, and then he added the 3 ounces of Maker's Mark to blend them, and then had that sit like that for a while. But again, this is a really bold endeavor on his part, because really you need to let a barley wine, go for at least 9 months. I mean, you want 9 months to a year on a barley wine, and you need much more hops to really carry it through. So hats off to you, Matt. I'm going to give this a shot. This was, as I said, I think a very bold endeavor on your part. Let's see what it turns out like. Here we go. Okay, let's take a look. First, I get a lot of carbonation actually on the side. I think you can kind of pick that up. Not much in terms of head. It's just a little bit of a ring of large bubbles. The color is actually kind of a light, or I should say medium brown with red hues through it. I don't know if you can really pick that up, but there's a lot of red hues, so it's brownish red in color. So let's get a nose on this one. There's no mistaking the Maker's Mark on this for sure, and I do believe I'm picking up some of the pecan wood. I'm getting some of the oak, but I'm definitely getting the pecan. The pecan feels like it mixed well with the bourbon in aroma. You do get kind of a lightly, almost a rubbing alcohol type aroma too, though, on it, which is quite interesting. And there's some sweetness behind it. It's light, but I can tell it's like it seems like an intense sweet, actually, but it is there as well. Okay, hello, this is a 12% beer. So I'm smelling a lot of the alcohol from the beer combined with the bourbon. So there is a lot of alcohol on this beer. And it almost, I get an apple scent, like an apple wood too. I know it's pecan wood and oak, but I get kind of this apple aroma that makes me think of an apple wood kind of a scent. But there is a sweetness there. So that blend of those woods with a little bit of bourbon, a lot of alcohol off the beer itself. It's a nice sweetness, more of an appleish type aroma with some wood, as I say. So, all right, we're gonna give this one a shot. Okay, very interesting. It's really evident that this needs a lot more age. If I end up with an extra bottle, I may be aging one. but it's very apparently strong. There's a lot of alcohol on this beer. There's no way around that at all. Let me see what else I can tell you here, though. It's really interesting. These sweet flavors, I know a lot of it's because of the fact that you have such a high concentrated amount of the barley, the grains, that were concentrated down, so very sweet. And because the high alcohol, possibly also the added bourbon, as I say, really high alcohol flavors. I still am pulling off, I think, some of that pecan flavor, though. I really do think that I get that. If everything else was more balanced, I think I would really appreciate the pecan flavors a lot more. I like that. And it's funny that it seems like I pull that out more somehow than the oak on it for myself. And that's not a bad thing. I kind of like the idea of the pecan wood. I don't think there's enough chocolate malt in it to do a lot. Often vanilla, you don't pick up the flavor directly. It has more to do with mellowing the flavors out. So as it is right here, I mean, this isn't super drinkable by any means. It's not really where you want to be on a Barleywine, and you know, I knew that going into this. This was going to need a lot more time. Personally, I think it needs a lot more hop character, of course. I don't think there's any more question about that. You need to be able to balance those sweet flavors out more properly. And it's interesting because I saw so much carbonation, and that really kind of leveled out. I'm not getting so much carbonation now. It's dried off. And the bubbles have kind of dissipated quite a bit throughout the beer. I'm not usually a person that the heat is a real issue. I love big beers, but yeah, there's just a lot of heat on this, so it really needs to kind of mellow and age. If I was to make personal observations as far as like maybe what could be done like on the future, I like the taste of the pecan on it. I think maybe the pecan is a more dominant wood possibly for flavor. If you like that type of style, and this is for what you want, but you know, you might not even need the oak on it. And if you don't care for the pecan, Matt, then I'd say just drop it off so that the oak has a chance, because I think that the pecan is kind of taking over on the wood part of the beer. And I think you need to do more with the hops. You know, you used the Goldings, so I assume that's Kent Goldings. On an American Barleywine, that's a hoppy style. So you got to determine whether you want to go for an English style, in which case you need to bring in more flavors and dark malts and more chocolate to go to an English direction. Or you need to go to just a lot of hops, and maybe a lot of hops at the end to bring all those flavors in to balance this beer out. And I've allowed this to warm dramatically, so it's definitely a sipper, but there's no question that it needs a lot more time. So that I kind of figured that going into this. All right, ratings. Well, this is a real tough one, you know, and I pride myself in being really honest, so I can only judge the beer where it's at today and not where it's headed. So carbonation, I expect to be low. Color, you know, I actually, in a Barleywine, I look for darker colors a lot of the time. Either give me a really high hopped one with this kind of color range, or give me a darker one with a lot more malt character as far as darker malts, roasted malts, chocolate malts, things of those nature. The ones that are lighter are usually very heavily hopped and actually very quite sweet on them. And there's just who knows where this can go with time. So in that area, I mean, you know, to be frank with you, at this point in its life, I have to say it's not even at the base beer level. I've got to say it's like a 4. Aroma, okay, so I like the sweet notes. I mean, and I do kind of expect that with a barley wine. That's the sweet flavors are very predominant in them. It's maybe actually in some ways lighter than the sweet beers. I think that the aspect of the rubbing alcohol kind of scent kind of takes away. So there's some pluses and minuses there. I'm going to give it a 6 on the aroma. All right, taste. Let me give this another shot. So again, I mean, there's some pros and cons here. I mean, I'm getting some of these sweet flavors. I'm getting some of these, actually, I just got a little bit of the regular oak. I think the oak can be done, or woods too, so you might want to back off on some of the wood possibly. It reminds me of wine when you get some acidity and some tannins, and they're a little bit high on very young wines. And I kind of feel like I get some of that kind of action going on with the wood. I'm kind of thinking there might be too much wood, particularly considering you condensed it down to 3 gallons. Because I think that it's so strong, it's taking away from some of the other aspects of the beer and the flavors in this. I got to put you more like at a 5.0 on this, to be really frank. So overall, you're going to be at a 5.0, right at that base beer level. I want to see how this one ages. And by gosh, Matt, go back, do this beer, make it the right way, not like in the contest. I just think it was, unfortunately, the wrong choice of a beer for the contest, and I totally share your over-ambitiousness, because I tend to be that way myself. All right, well, anyway, enough from me. Last beer review, sad to see it over. I've had so much fun. SJ, thank you so much. You know, I love how you just get your little mind going, and right off the top of your head, you spewed out this base. It's been a fun base to work with. We've seen quite a bit of variety, some interesting, fun, tasty beers. What a cool thing, not just for us, but around the world. I mean, how cool is that? All right, well, this is Kevin at Clement's Homebrew saying, life's too short to drink cheap beer. On the other hand, sometimes it's better to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Thank you so much for sharing, everyone. This has been a fun experiment. SJ, thank you again. From people here in the UK and New Zealand. Wow, what a wonderful experience. Looking forward to the next one. I'm gonna have a follow-up video later, and until then, cheers. Oh yes, as SJ would say, enjoy the fruits of your labor. And as I'm saying, sometimes it's better to enjoy other people's fruits. That was really bad.